Do we know, in this committee talked a lot about the breakdown between Greater Minnesota and Metro Minnesota when we were talking about funding. Do you know the number on the bill, what that split is percentage-wise?
Rep. I don't know the exact numbers.
Okay. So that would be, and obviously, we're going to be going into conference, like you said, and on the floor. I think that'd be a great number we could talk about because, in this committee, we did learn a lot. We talked about, disparities and inequalities, and I think it was good. We started this committee talking about that, and I think it'd be a great way to end about it, knowing where we're bill as a whole. And that's, again, why I led with the Greater Minnesota versus Metro Minnesota's. I want to talk about what, economic development needs really are. And sometimes it's more than just funding, right? And I think we focused a lot in this committee on funding and making sure to get access to capital, and that's incredibly important, and my side of the aisle agrees in that. But we have to look at some of the issues that we're facing, and they're different all around, right? We talk about making sure we need to be able to reinvest capital, rebuild areas of Minneapolis, and fix areas in St. Paul, in the metropolitan areas, and that's great. But I look at my part of the state where we're having continual closures and restrictions that are closing economic opportunities for us. It's worth noting in the last year, the state of Minnesota has lost over $1 billion, if not $2 billion in private investment. It's not due to, in those projects where, Talon Metals not being able to produce and manufacture here. That's Huber deciding to pull the plug less than 2 months ago. And that's a soybean facility in Crookston deciding to leave about 2.5 months ago. This has nothing to do with us making access to capital or making things more equitable. It's because the state isn't a state we want to do business in. And we need to remember, and that's kind of the tone that I wanted to leave with this when we talk about economic development. It's more than just writing the check. It's creating a business environment that works for people. And when we have energy rates that are now some of the least competitive in the state, that's a tax on business. When we're talking about paid family leave and what that's going to do to our small business, that hurts them. When we talk about, how Greater Minnesota needs to invest in its tourism economy. Well, we can invest in tourism all we want, but you need to have other industries to support the people that live there year-round. Look at the average age of our resort owners. They're aging and wanting to be able to hand it down to the next generation, but they're not there. I've said it before in committees like this, if we want to continue to have these vibrant Greater Minnesota communities for people to recreate in, for us to learn from each other, we need to support those economies as well. We need to invest in them, not just with dollars, but with reasonable change and regulation reform. Otherwise, they're not going to be here. And when you leave the Metro Twin Cities to go up there and enjoy, whether it be northern Minnesota, whether it be western Minnesota, I don't care, pack a lunch, because there won't be anything there for you to go be a part of. Economic development, we talked a lot today too, or in this whole time we are here, we talked about making partnerships, whether it be through deed, whether it be through nonprofits, whether it be the state, and that's really great. Like I said, I'm a part of the IRRB. That's what we do, create partnerships inside our communities. But when you create these partnerships, right now Minnesota is not a state that you want to partner with. We might be able to offer dollars, we might be able to do all these things, but we need to create an environment that's really actually going to work for these people. And right now, it's not going to. And unfortunately, what we're going to see is money going out the door, and it'll be 2-3 years of permitting or waiting or regulation, or to find out that they're not going to be able to do it here, and they're going to leave. I said on the House floor a little over a week and a half ago, one of the biggest investors, Mr. Wonderful, right, Kevin O'Leary, said Minnesota's a state he would never, ever headquarter a business. We should have talked about that in economic development. It's really exciting and fun to talk about the big checks. It's a lot of fun, and a lot of those checks that we're giving out today in this bill are going to do a lot of good. I'm not going to deny that. But how much good are we going to do if we continue to fund things and they have to leave, or they can't open? And not only will, our suburban metro areas struggle, but Greater Minnesota is going to struggle. We need to learn to support all of us with real reform and real change, and not just talking about solutions because that's what sounds good on the news. That means diving in and doing the work. That means realizing that a paid family leave bill, it was 2 years ago that we were talking about everything we need to do to support businesses now more than ever. Where has that message gone? Because everything that's being talked about is more regulations and more taxes. And we're hearing it from our small businesses, especially in my district in Greater Minnesota, in northern Minnesota on the range. The concern is real. So let's take this bill, and there's still time to work on it. But I challenge all of us as we leave and go to our different committees today and get involved and finish this budget process. Let's think that there is more to economic development than just writing the check. It's making a state that can do business. It's providing it's not all about the handout, members. It's about the hand up. I just have to respond to some of those comments, Representative Feist. You talked a lot about supporting workers, supporting labor. Then if we're going to do that, I want to work with you on regulation and permitting reform for my part of the state. Because my district, 2 months ago, lost over 150 jobs because of that. And in the press release, when Huber decided to leave Minnesota, it was perfectly cited, leaving Minnesota due to political headwinds, in their press release to the governor, who signed this law into effect that he was going to help, that the old commissioner of deed was going to work on and help with. They all left him hanging. So now those 150 workers are out of work. This is the same place where we have a coal-fired power plant that is now going to be scheduled for being shut down, along with others around the state. We want to talk about helping and supporting workers. This is a big part of the equation. Between the Cohasset facility in Boswell and we're talking over 300 jobs. That's not talking about the indirect jobs, the thousands of mining jobs, the thousands of logging jobs, thousands of tourism jobs, which we talk about a lot. This is a part of the equation, and I understand that you're an advocate for the paid family leave. We can all have our different opinions on it. I know when I just had a town hall in my district last Saturday, that was one of the main topics of debate because they're really concerned. They can barely find workers as it is, and the number one thing they're worried about is taking rid of their ability to be able to bargain and work with their employees because they are their family. They don't want the state telling them how they have to do it because they do it a special way, because we take care of each other. We're Minnesotans. We all agree on that. But if we're going to support workers, it's more than just writing checks and making budget proposals that are going to put more money in people's pockets. It's about lifting people up and giving them the freedom to develop and build things and not restricting them with government bureaucracy.
This is what it looks like to be the change we want to see in the world. This is what it looks like to begin to reconcile with centuries of underinvestment and exploitation of some communities way more than others. And so while there are some parts of the state who continue to struggle because this is the state of an economy like we are in, there is struggle everywhere. I am really proud of the fact that we are acknowledging and taking time to see the folks who have never gotten a hand up before. They have not gotten handouts, they have not gotten hand ups, they have not gotten anything except for their hands slapped away.